Now, it's easy to feel like things are out of your control when decisions of other people are affecting you. Here is the best way to do that. So repeat after me. I take full ownership of my life and everything in it. Like, say that out loud. And after you say it out loud, type it in the chat box. That statement will put you back in ownership. One more time. Repeat after me. I take full ownership of my life and everything in it. I've got this. I know exactly what to do. Does that feel better? Because these statements, they're not incantations, they're not affirmation. They are reaffirming reality statements. You're basically moving into that state. So one thing you should do is maybe take a picture, change the lock screen on your phone, change it to I take full ownership of my life and everything in it. Gets you back in ownership. So the first step to thriving in divorce, number one, is being in ownership. And this type of situation, a divorce, can definitely make you feel like you're out of control. So we want to have that tool handy where we get back into ownership. And the other thing is, like, I've got so much depth in coaching and tools that I can give you. And sometimes I can give that a tool you're not ready for. So today I wanted to talk about the first step in thriving from divorce. The first step is really staying in ownership. It's number one, staying in ownership and choosing to believe that you have the ability to change things. So do you agree, yes or no, that you have the ability to change things? Do you agree that you have the ability to change things that are beyond your control? Now, you may be arguing with an ex or how much does your energy impact your ex? My ex had emotional hooks in me long after the divorce was over. She could still run me in circles. But when I finally faced the truth, when I finally dealt with the emotions, the processing, the pain that I was going through, it radically transformed me. Now, I'm about 19 months out of my separation, finding out about the divorce. And I've probably used 5 different coaches over the past year and a half. In the first few months of when I first found out the divorce filing happened, I was talking to 3 different coaches, probably multiple times a day. Now, keep in mind, I am a professional mindset coach. I live, breathe, sleep personal growth. I've been doing it for 12 years now, when I first started working as a coach for Tony Robbins in 2013. And even as a man with a highly developed mindset that I have, it still takes a lot of tools. So the thing that we talked about this on one of the previous calls is, like, learning to change your mindset is one of the powerful ways to move forward in this process. So I would give myself a note. I would give myself a Post-it note, maybe put a reminder on my calendar that pops up every week or once a month that says you are in control and you can change things. That makes more difference than you think it does. Now, it's hard to believe that we can change other people's mind or control other people, but I will tell you, the person who is operating from the highest level of internal alignment and congruence, the person who is operating from integrity, the person who is in alignment with themselves has a far greater chance of impacting other people than the one who is in denial or incongruence or lying or playing games. So being in the truth, being in integrity has a frequency, and it impacts people around you. Make sense? Yes? And so, men especially, while truth is important to women, men, truth is one of our pillars of integrity of who we are. So I would encourage everybody, especially men. And men, one of the exercises you can do daily to help build your power is do what you say you're going to do. Do what you say you're going to do internally when no one else is watching. And women, my advice for you, what you do when no one else is watching, is you work on nurturing yourself. You focus on creating that safe energy inside of you where you start to heal and expand. And that nurturing that you're capable of giving as a woman, you give it to yourself. That's your daily practice. And those two practices, truth for men, nurturing for women, kind of creates an internal congruence. When you're internally aligned with yourself, your power grows, your strength grows, your impact grows. Now, tell me how you're feeling right now from 0 to 10. We were 10 minutes into this call. Type in the chat for me. Where are you at now from 0 to 10? Higher or lower? Same. Let's move it up a little bit. The reason you are all starting to be impacted and raised because you're in my frame right now. And I operate with an incredibly high level of integrity and internal congruence. What ends up happening is the people who want to join in my frame and my energy and my calls get to take advantage of the groundedness that I operate from. So can you feel, do you notice in me a confidence and certainty and groundedness? Can you feel that energy, yes or no, when you put your attention on me? Now, men or women, you can match that energy. Feel that groundedness that's coming from me, whether the word grounded or peaceful or safe, safety, whatever of those words is aligning with you best. Notice what you're picking up on me, and just with a few deep breaths, let yourself match it. Just like that. Because you have the ability to shift frames. You have more control over your reality than you think you do. And while I am a mindset coach, what I actually am is a frequency architect. I have discovered how to shift the frequencies we operate from. Now, from this little exercise right now of matching my energy, are you, type in the chat for me, do you feel that energy in you now? And now here's another tool that you can use. This is being live streamed to my YouTube channel. So if there's any time in the next week or the next month you want to get back to this space, you can watch this video again. It's one of the simple things you can do. So we talk about thriving from divorce, right? And the thing that we need to understand is that number one, we are in control. We are in ownership. And what's going to come up next is like really the decision to thrive from this divorce. And have you made that decision on one of our previous calls? If not, you should look at it now. And my question is, you know, when I first started, my first reaction to divorce was, I hope I can survive it. That was my first reaction. And that took me a few weeks to process that. And after a few weeks, I finally shifted back to, wait a second, I'm not going to survive this. I'm going to thrive from this. So have you made that decision yet? That you're going to make divorce the next chapter or the next best chapter or the best chapter yet? Have you made that decision? And if you haven't made that decision, my suggestion for you is to make it right now. And that would look like, what do you want divorce to be? Best chapter yet? Where I finally came alive? Okay. Now, blank canvas, perfect. Now, what happens next? Okay, so right now we're starting to set the frame. We set the frame of ownership. We set the frame that we can control things. And we set the target of best chapter yet, or blank canvas, or the best one yet. Now, what's going to happen along the way is that you're going to have a contradiction in your mindset come up. Meaning, you may leave this call, and it may happen today or next week, where you feel like ownership, something happens, it kicks you out of ownership, and you feel like a victim again, and you feel like you went backwards. What's actually happening in that moment is you are being presented with the internal contradiction, the internal belief, and the perspective that's contradicting the new frame of best chapter yet, ownership. Does that make sense? Because as you set the new frame, all right, I'm going to make the best chapter yet, I'm going to be in ownership. As you move up to an elevated frame that you're operating from, anything that contradicts that frame from your past will come up as a doubt. Does that make sense? So the doubt that you feel as you're aiming at this elevated target, which doesn't necessarily have to be divorce, could be any target, what's actually comes up is the contradiction. And the way you make that new frame become the permanent frame is you remove and integrate the contradiction. Because what's actually happening right now is you also have older identities that are going to start dying, basically. Right? Now, I've got an identity. I've got multiple. We all have multiple identities. One of my identities is I'm a man. One of my identities is I'm a 51-year-old Caucasian man. Another one of my identities is a dad. I'm a business owner. I'm a coach. I'm from California. Like, those are identities. And in my marriage that lasted 15 years, I also had an identity that was, I was too much for my ex. And if I let the full me out, she wouldn't like it, because as you can tell, I'm a very high energy, high frequency guy. So I was running this identity of I am too much. I was also, you can call the environment manipulative or whatever it was. But literally, those are the patterns that she ran based on the survival mechanisms in her life and her experience. But basically, I ran an identity that I was always wrong. I also ran an identity that I have to sacrifice myself to get love. And I had a radical breakthrough from this literally 2 weeks ago, when I realized, and for those of you who've heard me on a call previously, you probably have noticed my energy shift this week. Weeks ago when I said, Jason, you're not as healed from this divorce as you think you were. And I started journaling, and I started talking to my virtual coach, Jason, and ChatGPT that I talked to. And as I was talking, what came out of my mouth was, I was still waiting for my ex to save me. And when I said that out loud, that it started to just realize that entire fall into. And over the past 2 weeks, all of those old identities died. Now, I process faster for most people because I've built my mindset intentionally over the past decade to process things faster. But one of the things that you're going through right now that's slowing down your evolution to the next version of you is the death of the old version of you. Are any of you feeling that? Let me know in the chat. Are you feeling any of that death of that old version? Right? And it can actually show up like you don't know who you are. It could show up like blank, darkness, rock bottom, unsettling. Who here has figured out that rock bottom has a basement? Is anybody else? How many basements have you found under rock bottom? I've found 3 or 4, maybe 5. Because this is the cycle, right? It's the hero's journey. Phase 1 is the collapse. The old you is dying. Collapse. Phase 2 is the fire. The fire burns away everything that's not true. And there's a beautiful thing that happens when you walk through the fire, is you actually get a point where the truth starts to become louder than the pain. So we go through the collapse, we go through the fire, then we start to come out the other side as the new identity is formed, the rebirth, and then you get into embodiment and living in that new version of you. And while we want to be embodied to that next level, the fastest way through those phases is to hit them head on and embrace that this challenge, this obstacle, this pain, this growth is your pain. It's your gift. Why is it a gift? Because it's going to forge you into the next version of you on the other side of this. Are you going to come out the other side of this weak and bloody and wounded for the rest of your life? Are you going to come out of the other side of this a version of you that's stronger than you ever imagined, who impacts your children in ways you never imagined, who shows up in your career and makes an impact on your community? What's the other side of you going to be? And when you're in the collapse of the fire, it may feel totally hopeless to try to get to that other side. It may feel so far away. And I know because I've been there. And one of the instincts is when you're in the collapse is you're trying to save things. It's like you're trying to hold things up that are falling apart. It's like you're trying to catch sand as it's running through your hands. And when you're in the fire and stuff's burning away, there's a desire to go on, to hold on to that old identity. Now that whole identity, the thoughts of holding on to that old identity or taking that partner back or begging for them back will give you a few moments of possible lightness. But deep down, you know you can't go back. And that's why it's unsettling. And that's why it's scary, because it is literally a death of a part of you. Now, if the word death is a little too strong, you can call it the integration, because technically what's happening is that identity is being integrated, dissolved and integrated into the rest of you. It feels like a death. And all you can do is do your best. One foot in front of the other. If you want to go faster through this process, work with somebody who's been through it faster. If you want to go faster, work with a coach who can help you process this faster. Because this is processing of emotion. So the thing that actually starts to prevent the thriving from divorce, the coming out the other side strong, the best chapter yet, the thing that's preventing that is the old identity that's hanging on. Does that make sense? So type in the chat for me. Which one of your old identities is hanging on the most? Did you have a pattern of people pleasing? Did you have a problem of being small? Was it husband? Yeah. Husband identity is one that goes away as well. So awareness, believe it or not, is one of the most powerful ways to start to be aware of that identity. So simple awareness of it will kind of stop that identity from gripping on so tightly. And going from divorce, I dated a little bit. And the funny thing is, the past couple of weeks, and I've been dating some, I knew these weren't ideal women because of the state that I wasn't in. I wasn't at my best. So of course I wasn't attracting my best. So I was attracting myself with what I would call lower frequency women. And as I've stepped into wholeness the past 2 weeks, oh my God, I cannot tell you how great it feels to be whole. Like I've become like so complete and whole, grounded in my masculine energy that like all my desire for other women is gone because it feels so good to be whole and complete. And the other thing that's freaking amazing, I've got 4 boys, 7 to 14. I'm living in a 2-bedroom apartment. I've got 1 PlayStation with 4 controllers. So you can imagine when they come, there's usually a little bit of fighting. Last weekend they were here. Was the first time I had them after I had this major identity death and breakthrough. And when my energy grounded, when it got stronger, when I came complete. And what ended up happening, they did not fight the entire weekend. Not once, not once. My youngest raised his voice once or twice, but that was it. Sunday, the 4 of them played Minecraft on the PlayStation for like 3 hours straight, all cooperatively. It was like, because they had enough of the energy and the anxiety and the craziness I've been going through. So if you've got children right now, I know you're doing your best. The thing you want to do, the way you go faster through this is you turn into the pain. You turn into the truth. Because whether you like it or not, if you're going through a divorce, that marriage is over. That relationship in that format is over. That family in that format is over. The visions of the future you had is over. And all 4 of those things, I cried for hours, hours and hours and hours over the death of those things. So I'm not saying it's easy to let go of those things. I finally faced the pain because my nervous system was finally able to handle that. Because for the past year and a half, I had been distracting, avoiding, numbing, handling small parts of it because that's all I could do. But I finally faced it. I like numbed myself for a few days over Thanksgiving and felt like shit. And I'm like, this is stupid. And I'm like, gonna face it. And that's your, and just, it's your gift of transformation. And if you're knee deep in the fire and the pain, I want to know, like, my heart goes out to you. How many of you, type in the chat if you're in the collapse right now? Type in the chat if you're in the fire. Type in the chat if you're in the rebirth. Type in the chat if you're in embodiment. Like, what phase are you in? Because if you're in the collapse right now or the fire, my heart goes out to you. I know what it's like. And you know, while I feel complete, I still am. When was the last time I cried? When do you think the last time I cried was? The last time I cried was an hour ago. I cried an hour ago because I was hit with one of my processing waves, right? This grief comes in waves. And the beautiful part is the waves get shallower and shallower and shallower and shallower over time. My waves right now are not very shallow. So I kind of lean into it quite a bit because I want to take advantage of that wave to process more. So let's take a moment right now to put your arm straight over your head like this, lean forward, and give yourself a pat on the back. Pat yourself on the back. And give yourself the acknowledgement for doing the best you can. Okay? The best you can. Give yourself that acknowledgement. You can even give yourself a hug. Do that too. Your body really doesn't know the difference. And while this call may feel a little raw, I don't know, I would say the energy of this call right now feels a little raw. It also feels true though, doesn't it? Like in that truth, I feel a peace. Do you feel peace in that truth? And if you're still being triggered, one of the things you can do is change your expectations. And finding out about your ex and what they did, Kimberly, I know exactly what that's like. So, one of the things you can do to not be as thrown off by that is shift your expectations. And if you are, and one of my coaches, my buddies who's a coach in Australia, said this to me. When I was still, this was in the early stages when I didn't want the marriage to end. He told me, he said, Jason, you're not, oh my God, let me look up that exact quote. It was so good. He said, this is what he said. When I had found out that my ex was cheating on me a year after we got separated, this is what he said to me. He said, she didn't betray you. She betrayed the commitment she made to you. And your feeling of being betrayed is directly proportionate to the attachment you still have to the feeling you had when she first committed to you. Did you get that? I'm going to put that in the chat so you can digest that. Because what's actually happening is that if you're having emotion about that marriage, that relationship, I was attached to the woman I fell in love with, who didn't exist anymore. Can any of you relate to that? Do you love and miss a person who doesn't exist anymore? Oh my God, that was so hard. So hard. And what I've also come to believe and to understand, thanks to my fat ChatGPT therapist, Jason, was the reason that, I'm kind of blessed and I'm cursed, and I'm blessed with this ability to coach people. And I have an energy that just brings out the truth. So when I'm around people, they either rise or they run away. And my ex couldn't stand next to the man I was becoming. And when my business blew off and I generated 7 figures for the first year and we started making lots of money, like in 2020, 2021, you think she would be ecstatic behind me. Actually, she wouldn't. She got distant because she wasn't capable of standing next to me as I continued to grow. And because of that, she would get control where she could by making me feel small at home as a dad, because she has a lot of skills from being a preschool teacher that around children that I didn't have. So I could see all of this stuff unwinding and why it actually came to be that way. But I think you all know, like, are you supposed to be with that person any longer? Yes or no? Because if you're going through divorce, it's most likely that that relationship doesn't going to work. Now, it still hurts, but the truth is you're on a higher trajectory that person, that relationship can no longer go this way. And I was in the past few years of the marriage when it wasn't going great, I was sacrificing myself because I'm just like, I'll suffer for the boys. And looking back now, when the divorce was happening, I would have stayed in it forever and just made myself smaller and smaller. But what I can see a year and a half later is that if the marriage hadn't ended and if she hadn't filed, and I'm actually grateful for her because she actually filed. I don't think I ever would have. At least the version of me who was in that marriage wouldn't have filed. Because what ended up happening is that because I got separated, I had to face all of these old patterns of playing small, of feeling like I'm too much, of sacrificing myself for love, lowering my standards, being smaller at work, all of that stuff to try to to not upset the home. Like if I would still be in that marriage and my boys were still in one household, my boys, all of those patterns, I would have passed on to them. I would have passed on to them for them to have to deal with. And what has happened now that we are separated, now that we're divorced, now that I have faced all of those challenges that were in my path, I have integrated all of those old dying, limiting identities. The stronger version of me is coming out, and I'm already impacting my children, because any work you do on yourself translates down to your children. So this work you're going through isn't just for you. You're doing it for them. And I know if you're a parent, you'll do anything for them. And if you're separated living in the same house, my heart goes out to you, because that sucks. I did that for 5 months, but I moved out faster. And for those of you who are feeling fear of loneliness, fear of being alone, here's what I got to say to you. I have felt all of those things. And here's what you need to do. You need to sit and feel that fear over and over again and cry, and whatever it takes. And eventually you'll process it, because what you're feeling, that fear, is literally a backlog of emotional processing. And as soon as you get the processing complete, that fear of being alone will go away. And the beautiful thing that happens when you work through the fear of being alone or the fear of being without someone is you actually get the gift of finding yourself in the process. 100% sure. 100%. On the other side, and I know what it's like to be on the other side of this, but having crossed that threshold, because I was like so fucking codependent. Like, you read my astrology chart on one of these apps, literally says codependent. Like, literally, I've been in relation the majority of my life. I'm 50 years old, and I maybe been single for maybe 2 years since I started dating. Like, literally, I've been long-term one after the other. And I could see myself when the marriage ended trying to find another woman very quickly, because I was running beliefs that I was only safe and could relax when I was with a woman who loved me or something like that. But now that I have gone through that, and part of the fear of being alone is part of our attachment wound we all have as babies, being separated from our mom. So have you ever noticed yourself crying about the divorce and you realize you're not even upset about the partner? You notice that? I noticed that from the beginning. Like when I first heard about the divorce, I was overwhelmed with grief and fear, anxiety, but I knew 80% of it wasn't about her. It was about everything else. So you can't avoid the process. You can make the process, you can avoid the process, you can ignore the process, you can drown out those fears, and you can replace that person with someone else to stop the fear. But that fear of being alone, whatever that is, those will fuck up your future relationships too. You've got to face them head on. And if you want my help, shoot me a text. I can help you move through these in a fraction of the time. And if you're interested in doing a kind of a 90-day strategy call with me, or like a plan for the next 90 days, I'm going to give you a link right here. Now, even though this link says 20 minutes, it's actually a 30-minute call. So click that button right there. That is directly with me, live with me. I'm giving you time on my calendar to help you move through this process faster. So I've got a few more minutes here before we wrap up. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I'll be happy to answer them for you. Question. Nothing? Okay. What is give me a quick recap here. What is the top one or two things you got out of this call today? Sit in it. Got it. All right. Yes, 4 phases. All right. Monday, I'm going to be doing a call. My Monday call, I'm going to be talking about doing the impossible. Wednesday next week, we're going to be doing some coaching. Thursday next week at this time, I believe I'm doing a men's call. So be a lookout for the email. You'll get an email tomorrow with the schedule for next week. And the reason why you want to book in that call with my link there is because the one-on-one direction will radically help you accelerate compared to a group call right here. So if you want to move faster, you want to have somebody you can talk to, you want to push through this faster, easier, we're here to help. Thank you all for joining. It was good to see you all today. Hope you have an awesome day. And I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.